Welcome to Readings in English, the channel dedicated to making English learning accessible, engaging, and enjoyable through captivating stories. Here, we understand that learning English can feel challenging. Mastering grammar, expanding vocabulary, and building fluency require dedication and practice. Yet, with the right techniques, such as immersion and storytelling, these hurdles can transform into stepping stones toward confidence and understanding. We explore the essentials of grammar, clever memorization methods, and practical strategies that make language learning faster and more effective. Through each story, you'll connect with real-life situations that make vocabulary and language rules easier to remember and apply. Today's story takes us to a spirited challenge at a school where students are competing for a special prize, the chance to travel abroad. The challenge to see who can learn the most English words in a month. Join us as we follow a group of friends whose teamwork and dedication propel them toward this goal, discovering along the way how much collaboration can truly impact their success. Dive in and see how learning English through stories can make every word and rule come alive. In the heart of the school, excitement buzzed through the air as students crowded into the auditorium for the morning assembly. The voices of friends greeting each other filled the large hall, creating a lively hum until the principal, a tall, kind-looking man with glasses perched on the edge of his nose, approached the podium. The students fell silent, their curious eyes fixed on him, wondering what news he had for them today. The principal smiled, waiting until every whisper had faded into attentive silence. He adjusted his glasses, then spoke in a tone both warm and serious. "I am pleased to announce a special challenge that will take place over the next month," he began, his voice carrying a note of excitement. "This competition is unlike any other. It is a contest to learn as many English words as possible within 1 month. The student who learns the most will win a trip abroad, a chance to see new places, experience new cultures, and use their English skills in real-life situations." A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of excitement and nervous energy. For some students, the idea of learning English words sounded easy and exciting, a chance to shine. For others, the challenge seemed intimidating, the thought of having to memorize countless words adding a layer of stress. Among those listening was Leo, a quiet student who often stayed in the background, observing rather than participating. He listened to the principal's words with growing interest, but a shadow of doubt crept into his mind. Leo was not naturally confident with languages, and English was no exception. He felt a twinge of fear mixed with a sliver of temptation. The idea of winning that trip intrigued him, but could he truly compete? As the principal wrapped up the announcement and wished the students luck, Leo found himself lost in thought. He walked through the busy hallway after the assembly, students rushing past him as he weighed the possibilities. The contest could be a great opportunity, a chance to step out of his comfort zone and prove something to himself. Yet, as he considered this, memories of past struggles with English bubbled up, each one reminding him of his limitations. The more he thought about it, the more uncertain he felt. Leo was accustomed to playing it safe, to avoiding risks that might expose his weaknesses, and yet he couldn't shake the tiny spark of curiosity that the principal's words had ignited. At lunchtime, Leo sat in the crowded cafeteria with a tray in front of him, half-heartedly poking at his food. He barely noticed when his close friends Emma, Sarah, and Max joined him, each one full of excitement about the competition. Emma, with her bright smile and lively energy, was the first to speak. "So, who's in for the English word challenge? I mean, the chance to win a trip abroad, that's huge," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm lighting up her face. Sarah, who was usually more reserved but no less supportive, nodded. "I think it's a great opportunity. We've all struggled with English in one way or another, but this could be our chance to improve and have some fun along the way." Max, the practical one in the group, added, "If we do it together, it might not be as hard. We could help each other, keep each other motivated. What do you think, Leo?" Leo looked up, his friend's encouragement making him feel a bit more hopeful. Still, he couldn't ignore the self-doubt gnawing at him. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice quiet. "It sounds amazing, but I'm not sure I'm good enough at English to keep up. I'd probably just slow you all down." Emma shook her head firmly. "You wouldn't slow us down at all, Leo. We're all going to have struggles, but that's part of the challenge. We'll work together, and if one of us is struggling, the others can help. Imagine how good it will feel if we succeed, knowing we did it as a team." Sarah leaned in, her eyes filled with quiet determination. "She's right, Leo. This isn't just about winning a trip. It's about pushing ourselves and seeing what we're capable of. And if we can do it together, that makes it even better." Leo felt a flicker of warmth at his friend's words. They believed in him, even when he struggled to believe in himself. The idea of facing the challenge as a team, of working together toward a shared goal, began to dissolve some of his doubts. Slowly, he nodded. "All right," he said, a shy smile forming on his face. "I'll give it a try. But only if we do it together." With their decision made, the group spent the rest of lunch planning their approach. They discussed strategies, from setting daily word goals to using storytelling as a memory aid. Each friend brought their own ideas. Max suggested flashcards, Emma proposed word games, and Sarah thought they could try using the new words in sentences to make them stick. By the time lunch ended, they had a solid plan and a shared sense of purpose. Leo felt a surge of motivation he hadn't anticipated, a newfound excitement fueled by the support of his friends. That evening, Leo sat at his desk with a list of English words in front of him. The room was quiet, the soft glow of his desk lamp casting a warm light over the pages. He took a deep breath and began, but it wasn't long before he felt frustration creeping in. The words seemed foreign and slippery, difficult to remember no matter how hard he tried. For a moment, he wanted to give up, to close the notebook and forget about the challenge. But then he remembered the storytelling technique Emma had suggested. He closed his eyes and began imagining each word as part of a simple story, weaving the new vocabulary into a narrative he could visualize. Little by little, the words began to stick, each one taking on meaning as it became part of his story. To his surprise, he found himself enjoying the process. It felt less like studying and more like discovering something new, each word a small victory. By the end of the evening, he had managed to remember more words than he'd thought possible. The small success filled him with a quiet sense of accomplishment, a feeling that perhaps, just maybe, he could do this. The next day, during a lunch break in the school courtyard, Leo and his friends gathered to check in on each other's progress. Leo felt a flicker of nervousness, unsure how he measured up. But as they began sharing their experiences, he realized he was not alone in his struggles. Each friend had faced their own challenges, but they had also found ways to overcome them. Max spoke about the difficulty he'd had with certain words and how he'd used flashcards to improve. Sarah shared a story about almost giving up, only to find a breakthrough when she tried a new technique. As they celebrated their small victories together, Leo felt a deeper connection to his friends, a sense of camaraderie that strengthened his resolve. This challenge was no longer just about learning words or winning a trip. It was about the friendships they were building and the resilience they were discovering within themselves. For the first time, Leo felt truly committed to the journey ahead, no longer just for the prize, but for the personal growth and shared experiences it promised. The first week of the competition passed in a blur, and as Leo and his friends made their way through the initial excitement of the challenge, the reality of the work ahead started to settle in. Each day brought a new list of words to study, and each night found Leo poring over his notes, his desk cluttered with papers and flashcards. He wanted to stay motivated, to keep up with the pace they had set for themselves, but the pressure was starting to weigh on him. One evening, as he sat at his desk attempting to memorize a particularly challenging set of words, Leo felt a sense of frustration building inside him. The words swam on the page, refusing to stick in his mind, and every time he thought he had mastered one, it slipped away like water through his fingers. With a sigh, he leaned back in his chair, staring up at the ceiling and wondering if he had made a mistake in joining this competition. His friends had seemed so sure, so enthusiastic, but now, alone in his room, Leo wasn't certain he could keep up. The next day at school, the pressure only intensified. The leaderboard posted outside the classroom showed the rankings of each participant, and while Leo's group was doing well, other students had begun to catch up, some even surpassing them. The sight of their names slipping down the list sent a wave of anxiety through him, and he felt the weight of expectation settle heavily on his shoulders. During lunch, he sat quietly, picking at his food while his friends chatted around him. Emma noticed his silence and gave him a concerned look. "Are you okay, Leo?" she asked, gently breaking through his thoughts. "You seem kind of down." Leo hesitated, not wanting to bring the others down with his worries, but eventually he sighed. I don't know if I can do this. It feels like every time I learn something, I forget it just as quickly. I look at the leaderboard, and it feels like we're falling behind. I don't want to let you guys down, but I don't know if I can keep up." His friends exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of understanding and encouragement. Max leaned forward, his voice steady. "Hey, Leo, we all knew this was going to be tough. None of us are experts at this, and we're all struggling in our own way. The leaderboard doesn't matter as much as the fact that we're learning. We're in this together. Remember?" Sarah nodded, adding, "And don't forget about the storytelling technique we talked about. Sometimes it helps to make things personal, to connect to words with things that matter to you. Maybe that will make it easier to remember." Leo took a deep breath, feeling a bit lighter after hearing their words. It was true. He wasn't alone in this, and his friends had chosen to support him no matter what. As they talked, a new sense of determination began to take root. He wasn't sure if it would be enough to help him succeed, but for now he felt ready to try again. That evening, Leo returned to his study desk with renewed purpose. This time, instead of trying to memorize the words by rote, he decided to approach them in a way that made them feel more personal. He crafted small stories around each one, creating images in his mind that connected the vocabulary to familiar moments in his life. As he worked, he found that the words became more than abstract symbols on a page. They became part of his own narrative, each one anchoring itself in his memory with surprising ease. By the end of the night, he had learned more than he expected, and a small sense of triumph filled him as he reviewed the words he had struggled with only hours before. The following days brought both challenges and breakthroughs. There were moments when Leo felt himself slipping back into self-doubt, when the weight of the competition seemed almost too much to bear. But each time, his friends were there to remind him why they had started, to reassure him that he was capable of more than he realized. They experimented with new learning techniques, from flashcards to games, each friend bringing a unique perspective to the table. Together, they created a rhythm, a balance between support and hard work that kept them moving forward, even when the path seemed daunting. By the end of the second week, They gathered in the school library for a progress check, each one sharing their successes and struggles soberly. Leo felt a mixture of pride and relief as he listened to his friends recount their own difficulties, realizing that he was not alone in his journey. They celebrated their small victories together, recognizing that each step forward, no matter how small, was a sign of growth. As they sat together in the quiet of the library, Leo found himself reflecting on the past few weeks. He had entered this challenge with more fear than confidence, but now, surrounded by his friends and their shared determination, he felt something shift inside him. This journey was no longer just about winning a prize or proving something to others. It had become a journey of self-discovery, a chance to push beyond his limitations and see what he was truly capable of. For the first time, he felt a genuine sense of hope, a belief that he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The next day, however, brought an unexpected test of their resilience. As they passed the leaderboard in the hallway, they noticed that a new group of students had appeared near the top, their names climbing rapidly up the rankings. The sight sent a ripple of tension through Leo's group, and he could see the worrying etched on his friends' faces. The competition was heating up, and the pressure to succeed was higher than ever. That afternoon, as they sat together in the school courtyard, Emma voiced what they were all feeling. "It looks like we have some serious competition now. If we're going to stay in the running, we're going to have to step up our game." Max nodded, his jaw set with determination. "We can do this. We've already come so far. We just need to stay focused and keep pushing ourselves." Leo listened to his friends, feeling a mixture of determination and nervousness. The stakes had never felt higher, but he knew that with their support, he was capable of more than he had ever believed possible. Together, they agreed to double down on their efforts, to study harder and support each other more than ever before. The final days of the week passed in a blur of late-night study sessions and quiet moments of reflection. Leo found himself growing stronger with each passing day, his confidence building as he conquered word after word. He was tired often to the point of exhaustion, but the knowledge that he was not alone kept him going, even when the path seemed steep. By the end of the week, Leo had come to a new understanding of himself and his friends. This challenge was more than just a test of their knowledge. It was a test of their friendship, their ability to support each other through even the most difficult moments. And as they prepared for the final phase of the competition, Leo knew that no matter what the outcome, they had already won something far more valuable than any prize. They had won the strength that comes from facing one's fears, the resilience to keep going despite setbacks, and the unbreakable bond that had formed between them through this journey of words. The competition had reached a new level of intensity, and as the days passed, Leo and his friends felt the weight of the challenge more heavily than ever. Each morning, they checked the leaderboard outside the classroom, watching as names moved up and down with each new word memorized. Their once comfortable place near the top now felt precarious, and with a rival group quickly rising in rank, the pressure had become constant. The sense of friendly competition was now tinged with an urgency that none of them could ignore. Leo, in particular, felt the strain. He could see the determination in his friends' faces every time they gathered to study, and he was committed to keeping up. But as the week wore on, he found himself struggling to manage the stress. One evening, Leo sat alone in his bedroom, his study materials spread out before him. The quiet of the room amplified his doubts, each missed word and forgotten definition echoing in his mind like a reminder of his limitations. No matter how hard he tried, there were moments when he simply could not remember, the words slipping through his memory as though they were made of sand. He looked at the clock, realizing how late it was, but the thought of leaving his work unfinished nagged at him. Exhausted, he decided to push through, hoping that somehow the words would stick if he just worked a little longer. The next day at school, Leo's exhaustion was apparent. His friends noticed his tired eyes and quiet demeanor, their faces reflecting concern. During lunch, Max gave him a worried glance. "Leo, you don't look so good." "Did you stay up late studying again?" Leo hesitated, not wanting to admit how much he was struggling. "Yeah, I guess I did," he said with a weak smile. "I just didn't want to fall behind." Emma placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We're all feeling the pressure, Leo, but remember, we're in this together. It's okay to take breaks. Overworking yourself isn't going to help you learn any faster." Sarah nodded, her voice gentle. "Sometimes stepping back for a moment helps. Maybe we should all take a breather. We've been pushing ourselves hard, and it's starting to take a toll." Leo looked around at his friends, realizing that he wasn't alone in his struggle. They, too, had been feeling the weight of the challenge, their determination mixed with fatigue. Together, they decided that instead of their usual intense study session, they would spend the afternoon doing something different. They walked to a nearby park, letting the fresh air and open space clear their minds. As they relaxed, Leo felt some of his tension began to melt away, the simple act of being together outside of a study setting reminding him of the joy they had found in each other's company. They laughed and shared stories, their conversation drifting from the challenge to lighter topics, each one letting go of the stress that had built up over the past weeks. After their time in the park, Leo returned home feeling rejuvenated. The break had given him a fresh perspective, and he realized that pushing himself to the point of exhaustion was not the answer. He decided to approach his studies with a renewed sense of balance, taking moments to rest when needed and trusting that the knowledge he was gaining would come in its own time. That evening, he tackled his vocabulary list with a clear mind, finding that the words came more easily when he wasn't trying to force them. The following days were marked by a sense of calm determination within the group. They continued to study, but now they approach each session with a shared understanding that rest was just as important as hard work. As they settled into this new rhythm, Leo found himself not only retaining more words, but also feeling a deeper connection to the learning process. The challenge was no longer just a competition. It had become a journey of self-discovery and growth. However, their newfound sense of balance was soon tested. One morning, as they checked the leaderboard, they saw that their rival group had surged ahead, their names now occupying the top ranks. A wave of disappointment washed over them, and Leo felt a familiar pang of insecurity. It seemed as though, no matter how hard they tried, their efforts were not enough. He glanced at his friends, each one wearing an expression of frustration mixed with determination. Max spoke first, his voice firm. "This isn't over yet. We've worked too hard to give up now. We just need to keep going to remember why we started." Emma nodded, her eyes reflecting a fierce resolve. "We didn't come this far to let someone else take this from us. We've made it through every challenge so far. We can do this." Leo felt a renewed sense of determination stir within him. Their journey had been filled with setbacks, but each time they had found a way to overcome. He knew that this was just another hurdle, one that they could face together. That afternoon, they gathered in the library, each one committed to pushing forward, their resolve stronger than ever. As they studied, Leo found himself reflecting on how far they had come. Each word he learned felt like a small victory, a testament to the growth he had experienced since the beginning of the challenge. The fear and self-doubt that had once held him back had given way to a quiet confidence, a belief in his own ability to persevere. His friends had become his greatest source of strength, their support and encouragement carrying him through even the most difficult moments. With each passing day, their bond grew deeper, the shared experience of the challenge creating a connection that transcended the competition. They cheered each other on, celebrating each success and offering comfort through every struggle. Together, they had discovered the power of resilience, the strength that came from facing their fears and pushing beyond their limits. And as the final days of the challenge approached, Leo felt a sense of peace, a certainty that, regardless of the outcome, they had already achieved something far greater than they had ever imagined. When the last day of the challenge finally arrived, Leo and his friends stood together in the school courtyard, their faces a mix of anticipation and relief. They had given everything they had, pouring their hearts into each word, each moment of study. The journey had been long and difficult, filled with moments of doubt and triumph. But now, as they looked back on all they had accomplished, they knew that they had gained something far more valuable than a place on the leaderboard. They had discovered the true meaning of friendship, the strength that came from facing challenges together, and the resilience that would carry them forward, no matter where life took them next. As they waited for the results, Leo felt a sense of calm settle over him. Winning or losing no longer mattered. What mattered was the journey they had shared, the memories they had created, and the bond that would stay with them long after the challenge was over. For the first time, he felt truly proud of himself, not for what he had achieved, but for the courage he had found to take the first step, to believe in himself and in the power of friendship. And as the final announcement echoed through the courtyard, Leo knew that this was only the beginning of his journey, a path that would lead him to places he had never imagined, guided by the lessons he had learned and the friends who had been by his side through it all. The final week of the challenge had arrived, and the school was filled with a quiet tension. Everyone knew this was the decisive moment, and the pressure to memorize as many words as possible was almost palpable. Leo and his friends were determined to give it their all, but anxiety hung over them. During lunch, they gathered in the cafeteria to discuss their plan for this last stretch. Emma, usually optimistic and cheerful, looked more serious than usual. Everyone felt the weight of the challenge, and even the sound of conversations around them seemed lower, as if the other students were also mentally preparing for the final days of competition. Leo felt his heart race as he glanced at the leaderboard. The rival group was still ahead, and each passing day made it harder to catch up. He knew they were all doing their best, but it still wasn't enough to overtake the other team. That night, while studying in his room, Leo felt the familiar wave of doubt returning. He had already pushed himself so hard, and even with the support of his friends, the idea of giving up felt tempting. But then he remembered how much he had already learned, the countless words that were now part of his vocabulary, and especially the strength he had discovered within himself and in his friends. The next day, Leo decided to arrive at school early. He wanted to review a few extra words before meeting his friends. He sat on one of the benches in the empty courtyard, where the calm of the morning gave him a brief and comforting pause. As he reviewed his list, he felt someone approach. Looking up, he saw Sarah, who had also arrived early to study. They exchanged a knowing smile, and Leo realized that, regardless of the result, he had already gained something invaluable, the friendship and partnership of his friends. That connection, he thought, was one of the greatest rewards of this challenge. As the final days approached, their study sessions grew more intense. Leo and his friends spent hours in the cafeteria, library, and even in small hidden corners of the school, where they practiced their words and shared strategies. Emma suggested they play a small game where each person had to create a sentence using 3 difficult words they had learned that week. Max and Sarah loved the idea, and soon the group was laughing and having fun, creating absurd stories with vocabulary that had once seemed so complicated. Leo realized that, even amid all the pressure, they could still find moments of lightness and joy. But the fun didn't last long, and on the night before the challenge ended, Leo felt the weight of responsibility return with full force. He spent the night studying with an intensity he had never experienced before. Each word became a hurdle to overcome, and he forced himself to continue, even when exhaustion threatened to overtake him. His friends had promised to meet in the school courtyard early the next morning for one last review session before the final presentation, where they would demonstrate their knowledge. Leo knew this was the time to show everything they had learned, and he was determined to give it his best. On the day of the presentation, the courtyard was filled with nervous students, and Leo felt his stomach twist with anxiety. He spotted his friends in the crowd, each wearing an expression of nervousness mixed with determination. As he approached, he felt the familiar sense of camaraderie that had helped him so much along this journey. They formed a small circle and held to each other's hands, exchanging encouraging looks. Emma, always the most spirited of the group, was the first to speak. "No matter what happens today, I'm so proud of all of us. We've come so far beyond what we imagined, and I wouldn't trade this experience for anything." Max nodded, a shy smile appearing on his face. "I agree. Each of you helped me see that I'm capable of things I never thought possible. Even if we don't win, what we've built here is something we'll carry with us for the rest of our lives." When it was Leo's turn to speak, he felt a lump in his throat. The words seemed difficult to form, but he finally found what he wanted to say. "You guys were the best part of all of this for me. I joined this challenge feeling scared, not knowing if I could do it. But because of you, I discovered a strength I didn't know I had. Thank you for believing in me, even when I doubted myself." They were silent for a moment, each one absorbing the words and feelings before finally letting go of each other's hands and preparing for the start of the presentation. The presentation began, and each student had the opportunity to demonstrate what they had learned, sharing words and sentences in front of the teachers and other competitors. Leo felt incredibly nervous at first, but as he looked at his friends in the audience, his confidence slowly returned. He managed to remember every word and sentence he had practiced, and by the end, he felt a profound sense of relief. All his friends did great in their presentations, and when it was over, he saw the glow of satisfaction in each of their eyes. With the presentation finished, the teachers announced that the results would be released the following day. Leo and his friends left the school together, the weight of expectation still in their hearts, but, for the first time, without fear. They knew that, regardless of winning or losing, they had won something far greater. That night, Leo slept with a sense of peace, feeling prouder of himself than he ever had before. The next morning, Leo arrived at school with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today, the results of the competition would be announced, and the entire school buzzed with anticipation. Leo felt his heart pounding as he walked through the hallways, noticing that everyone seemed to be talking about the challenge. Some students speculated on who might win, while others discussed how they had grown from the experience. Leo's friends were waiting for him in their usual spot, and as they gathered, each of them exchanged a look of mutual encouragement and pride. They knew they had given everything they had, and regardless of the outcome, they felt a sense of accomplishment. The school's auditorium filled with students and teachers as they took their seats for the announcement. The principal stood at the podium, his expression both proud and serious as he looked over the crowd. Leo glanced at his friends, feeling a surge of gratitude. They had been his support through every struggle and triumph, and he couldn't imagine having faced this challenge without them. As the principal began his speech, Leo listened carefully, his nerves momentarily forgotten. The principal started by acknowledging everyone's efforts, commending the hard work and dedication that each student had shown throughout the competition. He spoke of how the challenge had not only been about learning vocabulary, but about perseverance, teamwork, and personal growth. "This challenge has taught us all something invaluable," he said, his voice carrying a note of pride. "It has shown us that the journey of learning is just as important as the goal itself. Each one of you has grown, both as individuals and as part of a community, and that is something to be proud of." After the principal's remarks, he began to call up groups who had shown particular dedication and improvement throughout the challenge. Leo and his friends held their breath as names were announced, their hearts pounding with each call. Finally, the principal looked at them, his eyes shining with approval. He called Leo's group to the stage, acknowledging their collective effort and the support they had given one another. The audience clapped as they made their way up, and Leo felt a wave of pride wash over him. Standing in front of the crowd, Leo realized that winning or losing no longer mattered. What mattered was that they had all grown, that they had learned to face their fears and embrace the challenge together. When they reached the stage, the principal smiled at them, congratulating each one individually. "You all have shown us what true friendship and dedication look like," he said, his voice warm and encouraging. "Your teamwork and determination have been an inspiration to everyone here." After congratulating Leo's group, the principal moved on to announce the final winners of the competition. Leo and his friends listened with a calm acceptance, feeling at peace with whatever the outcome would be. When the winning group was announced, they clapped enthusiastically, genuinely happy for those who had won. For Leo, the journey he had shared with his friends felt like a victory in itself. As they walked off the stage, Leo's heart felt lighter than it had in weeks. The challenge was over, but the lessons he had learned would stay with him forever. He looked at his friends, each of them smiling with the same sense of relief and satisfaction. They had accomplished something meaningful, something that went beyond any prize or recognition. They had grown together, supporting one another through every struggle and triumph, and that bond was something they would carry forward, no matter where life took them. After the ceremony, they gathered in the school courtyard, reflecting on the journey they had shared. Emma spoke first, her eyes filled with emotion. "I'm so proud of all of us. We went through so much together, and I wouldn't trade this experience for anything." "We might not have won the competition, but we won something much more important." Max nodded, his expression thoughtful. "This challenge showed me that we're capable of so much more than we think. I wouldn't have been able to push myself this hard without each of you. Thank you for being there, for making this journey one I'll never forget." Sarah smiled, a tear glistening in her eye. "We learned a lot of words, but I think we learned even more about ourselves and each other. This experience made me realize how important it is to have people who believe in you, especially when you start to doubt yourself." Leo took a deep breath, feeling a swell of gratitude for the friends who had been his strength through every step of the challenge. "You all taught me that it's okay to take risks, to push beyond what feels safe. I started this journey filled with doubt, but you showed me that I could achieve more than I ever thought possible. Thank you for believing in me, and I struggle to believe in myself." They stood together in a quiet moment, each one reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. The competition had been difficult, filled with moments of doubt and exhaustion, but it had also been transformative. They had faced their fears, discovered new strengths, and, most importantly, formed a bond that would remain unbreakable. In the days that followed, Leo found himself thinking back on the challenge with a mixture of pride and nostalgia. The words he had learned, once a source of stress, now felt like symbols of his growth. He began using them with ease, weaving them into conversations and writing assignments. Each word was a reminder of the journey he had taken, a journey that had taught him more than just vocabulary. It had taught him resilience, friendship, and the importance of believing in himself. One evening, as he sat in his room reviewing his notes, Leo felt a surge of determination. The challenge had sparked something within him, a love for learning that went beyond the competition. He realized he wanted to continue improving his English, to keep exploring the possibilities that lay before him. He began researching ways to further his studies, considering clubs and additional classes, even looking into the possibility of studying abroad one day. Leo knew that his journey was far from over. The competition had been just the beginning, a stepping stone that had opened his eyes to a world of possibilities. As he looked at his notes, he felt a sense of excitement, a desire to keep moving forward. He knew that with the support of his friends and the strength he had discovered within himself, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As he walked to school the next morning, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey he had shared with his friends had changed him, helping him grow in ways he had never imagined. He no longer felt like the hesitant, uncertain student who had joined the competition weeks ago. Now he was filled with confidence, a belief in himself that no challenge could shake. In the end, Leo understood that the true reward of the competition was not the prize or the recognition, but the discovery of his own potential. He had found courage, resilience, and the unwavering support of friends who believed in him. And as he continued down the path he had started, he knew that his journey of learning was only just beginning.